I was living with Diane Keaton at the time. It was a long time ago, and she was great. I loved her so. And we had a great relationship, and she worked, and she was out there, and I would do whatever I wanted. I walked to the park. I went, my life just changed. I got off that pressure cooker. I didn't have to perform. I didn't have to be in something that was on a certain level. I just could breathe.
She's been involved romantically with a half dozen of the most gifted, charismatic, attractive men in Hollywood. And it's very interesting because every one of them has dumped her.
I didn't know how, and I was also afraid of men.
Really?
Oh yeah, I was afraid of men, yes.
They met beneath the same bright mythic sky that would later light their movie screens. A young Diane Keaton, effervescent and sharp, and Al Pacino, already a tempest of talent. Filming The Godfather in 1972 seeded something that would grow beyond scenes and scripts, a private, on-again, off-again life together that threaded nearly 2 decades. They began dating in 1974. They called it quits in 1990 after Keaton gave him an ultimatum and he refused to commit to marriage. It is possible, and worth imagining, that in the quiet hours between takes and the louder hours of premieres, they traded futures in half-words and sideways glances, each imagining an alternate scene where the other finally crossed the room and asked for forever. Keaton later looked back with a clarity that is itself a kind of mercy. I didn't even want him to propose. I just thought maybe he would marry me. Eventually, she recalled. I thought, don't even propose. Let's just do it. She named what they both felt and what they both avoided. Eccentricities that clashed. Needs that misaligned. We're very eccentric. He needed a woman that was going to take care of him. I needed a man who would take care of me. It was just very important that we left each other alone. Said goodbye, she shared. Yet her goodbye was not chosen in full. But it wasn't my choice, she added. And that hints at the tender bluntness of 2 people who loved fiercely while remaining true to the messy truths of themselves. After their split, they did not vanish from each other's orbits. They lived near one another in Beverly Hills, and according to a mutual friend, there's no need to talk with each other. We said everything that needed to be said at the time. That refusal to rework old conversations reads like pride, like preservation, like the reverence people sometimes accord to the first drafts of a life. And still, the reverberations persisted. Keaton admitted she had been mad for him. Charming, hilarious, a non-stop talker, a portrait of the man who could be both like a lost orphan and this kind of crazy idiot savant. She loved him in that incandescent, candid way that actors sometimes love, with a mixture of admiration, exasperation, and awe. They remained artists to each other first, and perhaps lovers second, and in that ordering there is both safety and sorrow. When Diane Keaton died at 79 of pneumonia on October 11th, the public learned what Pacino already knew privately, that an absence can sharpen memory into an ache. Al Pacino, shaken by the news, penned an emotional tribute that read less like a press statement and more like someone reaching into the dark for a remembered hand. When I first heard the news, I was shaken, he wrote. Diane was my partner, my friend, someone who brought me happiness, and on more than one occasion influenced the direction of my life. He confessed that, even after 30 years apart, the memories remained vivid and returned with a force that was both painful and moving. The language is intimate. He praised her unmistakable energy, called her unstoppable, resilient, and above all, deeply human, and confessed a vision of her that is almost flight. She could fly, and in my heart she always will. In that metaphor is the recognition of a freedom he may have feared to clip. Reports after her death framed a different kind of confession. A friend suggested that Pacino will forever regret he didn't make his move when he had the chance, adding that for years he said, if it's meant to be, it's never too late for a do-over. But sadly, now it is. That imagined do-over is precisely the human impulse this story examines, the small, protracted bargaining with fate that follows a closed door. Pacino's regret, as relayed by those close to him, is neither melodrama nor headline fodder, but a common ledger of lives lived mostly without the benefit of hindsight's clarity, until the tally is final. Looking back, Al admits the love of his life was Diane, who he's always called an amazing woman, the friend added, words that land like late roses on a grave of possibilities. And yet the record resists simple tragedy. Keaton herself framed the separation as, paradoxically, a blessing. But that never happened, and that is a blessing for both of us. It would have been a nightmare for him. There is honesty in that judgment, an admission that love can be both luminous and impractical, that the romantic ideal of marriage can sometimes be a trap for two-spirited, eccentric lives. Their essential incompatibility, one needing caretaking, the other needing to be cared for in a different way, may have spared them a different kind of sorrow. They never married. They each made families of their own on varying terms. Keaton adopted 2 children in her 50s. Pacino fathered 4. The choices they made were improvisations on a theme, lives that looped around each other but did not fuse. Still, upon the public stage, Pacino could not help but honor the woman who had altered his path. At the 45th AFI Life Achievement Award tribute to honor Keaton in 2017, he stepped forward with a simplicity that had the force of absolution. "You're an artist, Di," he told her during his speech. "You're a great artist. I love you forever."
Forgive me. You're an artist, Di. You're a great artist. I remember it and I love it, and I love you forever.
That moment, 2 aging figures touching the soft, bright seam between past and present, becomes a final scene in which regret and gratitude sit beside one another without violence. It suggests that love can be a sculptor of 2 lives, even if it never becomes the architect of a shared household. If we frame the familiar details as speculation about what might have been, the story forms an instructive counterfactual. Imagine Pacino one decision bolder, Diane agreeing without ultimatums, a ring that steadies rather than constrains. Or imagine instead that same ring as a weight that bends the restless into compromise and robs 2 artists of their liberties. Both imaginings are plausible, and neither can be proven. In choosing the version they lived, they chose imperfect freedom and mutual respect, and those choices left a residue of longing that ripened into regret only after the possibility of change was removed. The human lesson reads plainly. Love asks for action, as often as it asks for patience. Sometimes the most courageous thing is to step forward, and sometimes courage looks like stepping back. Pacino's tribute and Keaton's candid reflections together map a life in which affection, artistry, and flawed choices intertwined. He wrote that people will miss her, but more than that, they will remember her. She left a mark that cannot fade. Memory then becomes the vessel for both what was given and what was withheld. In the end, the story between them is less about what could have been, and more about how 2 powerful, eccentric people shaped each other's art and interior lives, how even without a marriage they kept an unspoken, enduring intimacy, and how the regret of not acting upon love can itself become a tender, if painful, form of homage. If this story moved you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more deep dives into the lives behind the spotlight. See you in the next one.